My name is Rachel. I'm 42 years old, and I've always considered myself emotionally grounded, the kind of woman who doesn't get swept up in drama. I used to laugh at women in novels who let their lives twist into chaos over love. Now I think I owe them all an apology. Because I've been standing at the edge of something I can't name, not love, not hate, not lust exactly, and every day I feel a little more unmoored. I wasn't always like this. When I married Greg, I felt lucky. He was stable, reliable, warm in a way that soothed me after years of dating men who either disappeared emotionally or swallowed me whole. Greg made me feel safe, like I could exhale around him. And he was sexy, too, in that slow burn way. He never rushed anything, never demanded. When he touched me, it was with quiet reverence. Like he was learning me slowly, mapping me with his hands. But now, 11 years later, I don't even know if he sees me. Sometimes when we kiss, it's like he's brushing his mouth against a stranger's. His lips still land on mine at night out of habit, a dry press, his hand already reaching for the lamp. Other times, he'll wrap his arm around my waist while we're watching TV, and instead of leaning in, I stiffen. It's not because I don't want to be close. It's because I'm afraid of how hollow it feels now. The last time he really looked at me, held my face in his hands and searched me like he used to, was maybe 2 years ago. I was laughing about something dumb, and he stared like I'd surprised him, like he remembered I was a person he chose. I remember how my chest filled with warmth. I thought, there he is. But the warmth didn't last. We don't fight. Not really. We just move around each other like roommates in a quiet rental. Efficient. Predictable. Cordial. He asks about my work. I ask about his. We trade dinners and chores and bills and silence. Intimacy has been reduced to skin-deep gestures, a back rub that ends in awkward silence, a kiss on the shoulder that feels obligatory. I've tried to initiate more than once, slipped my hand under his shirt while he was shaving, lingered too long while folding laundry beside him, even worn the silk robe he bought me years ago when we still had a sex life worth naming. But each time, something recoils in him. He smiles, polite but distant. Not tonight, he'll murmur, brushing past me with a kiss on the forehead. I don't think he's cheating. I think he's tired. Or bored. Or maybe I am. The worst part is that I can't remember when exactly the shift happened. It wasn't a sudden snap. It was gradual, like erosion, like waking up and realizing the sea has crept closer, and now your feet are wet. And you don't know how long it's been that way. But if I had to name one moment, the moment it really sank in that we weren't the same, it was one Thursday evening, about 6 months ago. We were brushing our teeth side by side. I had toothpaste on the corner of my mouth, and I looked at him through the mirror and said, "You know, we haven't danced in the kitchen in forever." He blinked, spit, and said, "Danced?" "Yeah," I said, suddenly sheepish. "Remember how we used to put on music while cooking? And I'd spin you around by the sink?" He wiped his mouth. "Guess we'd been busy." And just like that moment, I realized it wasn't just that we were busy. We'd stopped being us. We were maintaining a life, not living one together. That night, I lay in bed beside him, staring at the ceiling. His breathing was slow, steady, already asleep. And I whispered, not loud enough for him to hear, "Where did you go?" But the real question, the one that scared me more, was, where did I go? Greg's a paramedic. 24-hour shifts, constant adrenaline, emotionally drained by the time he gets home. I've always respected what he does, the selflessness, the pressure. I was drawn to it, in the beginning. It made him feel heroic. Strong. But lately, I wonder if that same job has made him numb to me. I used to joke that I could bleed out on the kitchen floor and he wouldn't notice unless I dialed 911. That used to make him laugh. Now? I'm not sure it wouldn't be true. Last Saturday, we had friends over, a few neighbors, a couple Greg works with. I spent the morning cleaning, prepping food, moving furniture, lighting candles even though I knew the scent would probably irritate someone. I wore a dress he once said he loved, navy blue, fitted, soft enough to sleep in. I did my hair, my makeup. I felt good. Nervous, but good. When Greg walked in from the store, he dropped the grocery bags, came up behind me, and cupped my hips. "You look amazing," he said. "Like the woman I married." It was meant to be sweet. I know that. But my body flinched before my mind could stop it. Like the woman I married. Not the woman I love, or you look beautiful, or God, I missed this, just a memory, as if what I am now is somehow less. As if I've aged out of what he used to desire. And his hands on my hips, warm, familiar, suddenly felt like a reminder of how far we drifted. Physical. Reflexive. Like he didn't know how to reach me any other way anymore. Still, I smiled. Because that's what you do. I tucked a stray hair behind my ear, leaned back into him, and said, "Thanks." Later that night, after everyone left, we were in bed. He was scrolling through his phone. I was reading a novel, the kind I have to hide the cover of because it's romantic and indulgent and makes me feel things I no longer feel in real life. He reached over and ran his hand up my thigh. Not in a demanding way. Just exploratory. Curious. Maybe even tender. But it landed wrong. I closed my book and turned toward him. "Can we just, not tonight?" He blinked. "What?" "I thought we had a good night." "We did," I said quickly. Too quickly. "I'm just tired." He dropped his hand. Rolled onto his back. "You're always tired lately." I sat up. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" he said, not angry, just flat. "You keep saying you want connection, but every time I try to get close, you shut me down." "Getting close isn't always about touching me, Greg," I said, softer than I meant to. "Sometimes I just want you to see me. Ask me something real. Tell me something real." He stared at the ceiling. "I save people's lives all day, Rachel. I hold dying kids in my arms. I carry bodies out of wreckage. I come home and I'm drained. I don't have deep left sometimes." I didn't answer right away. Because I understood. I do understand. But still. "I'm not asking for speeches," I whispered. "I just need to know I'm not invisible." We didn't speak after that. He turned off the lamp. We lay in the dark, 2 inches apart and oceans away. The next morning, he kissed my neck in the kitchen while I was making coffee. I stiffened again. He noticed. I know he did. But he didn't say anything. He just grabbed his thermos and left for work. It's like we're both trying to give something the other one doesn't want. He thinks affection means hands and skin and closeness. But for me, it's eye contact. Conversation. A cup of coffee brought to me before I ask. A question that doesn't end in a solution, just quiet understanding. I don't want less from him. I want different. But I don't know how to say that without making him feel like he's failing. And lately, I'm starting to wonder if silence is the only thing we really share anymore. Tea happened again last night. Greg came home earlier than expected, 7:15, just after I'd finally poured myself a glass of wine and put on the quiet jazz playlist I save for evenings I pretend to enjoy being alone. He walked into the kitchen, sweaty from a run, shirt damp and clinging to him. He looked good, leaner lately, jaw more defined, that worn-out athleticism that still stirred something in me, or at least reminded me of a version of myself that used to stir. "Smells amazing," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek as I stirred the simmering sauce. I turned my head at the last second, and he caught the edge of my jaw instead. A misfire. His hand lingered at the small of my back. "What's this for?" he asked, gesturing to the dinner. "Just felt like cooking." "Lucky me," he said, kissing my temple. "Maybe I'll find a way to thank you later." I forced a smile, but the warmth dropped from my body like a coat off my shoulders. All through dinner, he was in a good mood, talking about a ridiculous call involving a man who accidentally glued his fingers to his cat. I laughed in the right places. I tried to be present. But every time his hand grazed mine across the table, or he let it rest on my thigh too long, I felt a tightening inside. Not fear. Not revulsion. Just pressure. Like expectation had weight, and I wasn't strong enough to carry it anymore. After dinner, I cleared the plates. He came up behind me at the sink, hands sliding under my shirt, fingers cold against my waist. I jumped. Not dramatically. Just enough. "Sorry," he murmured, laughing. "Didn't mean to spook you." "I'm just startled," I said, too fast. "It's fine." But it wasn't fine. It never is, anymore. Later, in bed, he curled around me like he used to. Spoon position, arm heavy over my side. At first it felt okay. Familiar. But then his hand slid beneath the hem of my sleep shirt, and I felt my body go still. Not because I didn't want him. But because I didn't want it this way. Not again. Not without being seen first. He kissed the back of my neck. It was gentle. Sweet. The kind of affection that used to undo me. But my brain started spinning. Does he think this is making up for ignoring me for days? Does he notice how I'm barely responding? Should I say something? If I say something, will it ruin this moment? Is this even a moment, or just a habit now? My body didn't move. But inside, I was shrinking. He shifted, maybe sensing the change. "Are you okay?" I could hear the hurt in his voice already, like he was bracing for rejection. "I'm tired," I whispered. He pulled back a little. Not angrily. Just enough to give me space. But the air between us felt vacuumed of hope. "Right," he said. "Of course." He turned onto his back. I stared at the wall. We didn't touch again. And still, part of me wanted to reach for him. To pull his hand back and tell him to hold me. Just hold me. Nothing else. No silent bargain of touch leading to sex. Just skin to skin, breath to breath, for the sake of being there. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Because deep down, a resentment I never invited had already bloomed, quiet, slow, and devastating. And in my head, looping like a broken radio, was the same thought I'd been afraid to say out loud: why does everything have to turn into sex? It wasn't supposed to be a fight. Greg had planned it, a rare evening off, a reservation at my favorite little Italian place on the edge of town. He even shaved, wore the navy shirt I love on him. The one that hugs his shoulders and makes him look 5 years younger. I knew he was trying. I could see it in the way he opened my door, in the awkward compliment he gave me over the candlelight. You look like you did when we first started dating. Just brighter, I guess." He meant it kindly. But it landed sideways. "Thanks," I murmured, running my finger around the rim of my wine glass. He smiled, leaned in. "You okay?" I nodded. But I wasn't. The thing is, I wanted to want this. I really did. I wanted to feel like the woman he was looking at, the one in the soft burgundy dress, hair curled, cheeks flushed from a second glass of Pinot Noir. I wanted to feel like I still belonged in this relationship. That this dinner wasn't just a well-meaning bandage on something quietly rotting beneath us. But then he said it. After dessert. Light-hearted, joking, the way men joke when they want to gauge how far they can go. So, think we might finally christen that shower upstairs tonight? He grinned. Tilted his head in that boyish way I used to find charming. And something in me snapped. I put down my fork, slowly, deliberately. My stomach flipped. Are you serious? I said. He blinked. What? That's what tonight was about. Getting me in the shower? No, he said, sitting back. God, Rachel, no. I was joking. I shook my head. You weren't. His face darkened. What do you want from me, Rachel? I plan a nice dinner, I compliment you, I try to be close, and you act like I'm asking for your kidney. Because it's never just dinner. I hissed, the edge of my voice breaking. There's always this undertone, like affection is a transaction. Like you're keeping score. The table went silent. The older couple behind us paused mid-bite. Greg stared at me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't understand. I stood. The chair scraped loudly. My voice was shaking. Do you even see me anymore? Or am I just this object you remember wanting and keep trying to reclaim with sex? He stayed seated. His jaw clenched, and I saw the heat rise in his neck. You're making a scene. Good, I said. Because I've been invisible in this marriage for years. And then, as if all the bottled-up confusion and hurt and silence had been gathering like rain behind a dam, I burst into tears. Not dainty, cinematic tears. Ugly, shoulder-shaking, hiccuping sobs. Greg finally stood. Ratch, he said, voice low, can we talk about this at home? I let him lead me out, hand light on my back. He didn't speak on the drive. Just stared out at the road, mouth tight, knuckles pale on the steering wheel. When we got home, I went straight to the bathroom and locked the door. I sat on the edge of the tub, makeup streaked down my face, dress wrinkled from the seatbelt, and I buried my face in a towel so he wouldn't hear me cry again. The thing is, I hated myself in that moment. Not just because I embarrassed him, but because I knew he was trying. And I'd still exploded. Still said things I hadn't fully processed, thrown darts I didn't even know I was holding. And worse, I knew that somewhere inside, a part of me wanted him to understand why I couldn't just slip into a mood, or respond to a touch, or climb into that damn shower like it was an invitation and not a pressure point. I wanted him to know what I couldn't say. But all I'd done was scream. And now, sitting alone with wet cheeks and damp shame, the only thing echoing in my head was, maybe I'd become impossible to love. It's been 12 days since the dinner. We haven't talked about it, not directly, not with real words. There have been small things. A mug of coffee waiting for me in the morning. A plate he left covered in foil when I got home late from work. But no touch. No apologies. No questions. Just distance. Like we're both afraid to step wrong and trigger another landmine. Greg moves around the house like a visitor now. He used to hum in the mornings, or leave the bathroom door open while he shaved so we could chat about nothing. But now, he closes it. Leaves the house before I've even made it downstairs. At night, he reads with the light off, using the glow of his phone to cast faint shadows across his face. I catch myself watching him sometimes, the slope of his brow, the sadness etched quietly into the corners of his mouth. He looks tired. Not just in the way his job makes him tired, something deeper. Worn. Like I've stripped something out of him without meaning to. It hurts to realize I might have become a source of his exhaustion. I miss him. I miss his laugh when he's caught off guard, the way his shoulders shake. I miss the way he used to rest his hand on my thigh in the car, thumb circling absent-mindedly. I miss his voice saying my name like it meant something soft. Something anchored. And I know he misses me, too. I see it in the way his eyes linger just a second longer than they used to when I walk past him. I see it in how he opens his mouth like he wants to say something, and then doesn't. Last night, we passed each other in the hallway outside the bathroom. I was in my robe. He was brushing his teeth. I nodded. He nodded back. And I thought, this is how strangers behave. This is how people drift. I'd been replaying the meltdown at dinner over and over. Picking it apart, trying to decide whether I overreacted or finally cracked from holding it in too long. The truth probably lives in both. I wanted him to understand what I couldn't explain. I wanted him to read between the sighs, to decipher the coldness in my body as a plea, not a rejection. But he's not a mind reader. He never was. And I made him feel unwanted. Like a man offering love only to have the door shut on him again and again. He didn't deserve that. Not fully. We're both hurting. Quietly. Politely. It's almost worse than yelling. This morning, I found one of his shirts folded in the laundry basket, the navy one from that night. I held it for too long, longer than made sense. Pressed it to my face. It smelled like soap and something faintly familiar. I wanted to cry, but didn't. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed and asked myself the question I've been avoiding: do I want to try again? Do I want to brave the awkwardness, the apologies, the hard work of rebuilding trust? Of learning to speak a new language together? Or do I walk away, gently, quietly, like a woman stepping out of a house that no longer feels like home? The truth is, I haven't answered yet. But I think I want to. Not because it's easy. Not because I'm sure it will work. But because love, real love, doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it's a hand reaching for yours in the dark, and deciding to reach back. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. The kind of day that already feels raw before anything begins. I was in the upstairs bathroom, wiping down the mirror absently, the fan humming behind me. I heard the door creak and turned. Greg stood in the doorway. No armor this time. No grin. Just a quiet man in a gray t-shirt, holding a folded towel like he needed an excuse to be there. I didn't mean to interrupt, he said softly. You're not. He stepped in, set the towel down, then leaned against the sink. We stood there in silence, the kind that used to be comfortable and was now heavy with everything unsaid. I miss you, he said, eyes locked on mine in the mirror. Even when you're standing right next to me. I swallowed. My voice caught. I miss you too. He turned toward me. I know I haven't been great. I know I default to physical stuff when I don't know what else to do. But it's not just about sex, Rachel. I want to feel you again. I don't know how anymore. My breath hitched. I don't either, I whispered. And there it was. The raw truth of it. He stepped closer, cautiously, like I might break. Or leave. Or flinch. But I didn't. His hand touched my elbow. Light, tentative. His thumb brushed slowly back and forth. I don't want us to be strangers, he said. Tell me what you need from me. I'll try. My eyes welled up. I need you to see me, before you touch me. To ask how I'm doing and actually wait for the answer. To sit beside me without trying to fix things. Just be there. He nodded. And then, no grand gesture, no makeup sex, no resolution, he opened his arms. I stepped into them. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even easy. My body still hesitated, unsure. But I let myself be held. His arms wrapped around me, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel braced for the next move. I just felt held. When we pulled apart, there was no promise. No sudden clarity. Just a fragile thread pulled between us. A start. Or maybe a slow return. That night, we lay in bed, apart at first, then eventually, my foot slid over to rest against his. He didn't move. But he didn't pull away either. Sometimes that's what healing looks like. Quiet. Incomplete. But trying. I've thought a lot about that moment in the shower. No, not that one, not the one people would assume from the title, the one that sounds like it came from a scandalous paperback or a whispered rumor at a dinner party. I mean the real one. The one that shifted something in me. It was 2 years ago. The upstairs shower was new, we'd just remodeled it after Greg's son moved in for college. It had glass walls and soft gold fixtures, and I remember feeling oddly vulnerable in it. I was rinsing my hair when the door creaked open. I didn't hear footsteps. I just suddenly felt someone behind me. And I panicked. Just for a second. My chest seized before my brain caught up. It was only Ryan, my stepson. He hadn't realized I was in there. He'd grabbed a towel, muttered an apology, and backed out so fast you'd think the room was on fire. We never spoke of it again. Not once. But that moment stayed with me. Not because it was inappropriate. Not because anything happened. But because it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. I no longer felt safe in my own skin. Even in my home. Even in my body. There was this instinct to shrink, to disappear, to cover myself, not just from a boy who'd opened the wrong door, but from everyone. From Greg. From myself. And that's where this all began, I think. Not with one big betrayal or sudden loss, but a slow, nearly invisible erosion of intimacy, the kind that makes you flinch when you're loved the wrong way for too long. I used to believe love was mostly about effort. And it is, partly. But it's also about knowing which kind of effort matters. You can touch someone every day and still leave them starving. You can say I love you until your voice cracks, and still not make them feel seen. Greg didn't stop loving me. He stopped understanding me. And I, in my guilt, in my resentment, in my growing silence, stopped letting him try. I've learned that desire isn't just about sex. It's about being chosen in the small ways. It's about someone reaching for your hand without needing it to lead anywhere. About asking how your day really was, not to fix it, but just to hold space for you. I don't know where Greg and I go from here. We're talking more. Less guarded. Sometimes we sit outside at dusk without saying anything at all, and for once, that silence feels less like distance and more like peace. I still flinch sometimes. Not physically, but emotionally. I catch myself waiting for pressure that doesn't come. And when he kisses my forehead instead of my mouth, I find myself exhaling in relief. It's going to take time. And maybe, it will never be exactly what it was. But I've learned that intimacy isn't built on perfect moments. It's built in the messy ones, in the tearful confessions, the late-night honesty, the willingness to try again even when you're scared. I used to think love had to feel effortless to be real. Now I know, the effort is the love. So if you're listening to this, if you're someone who's lying in bed wondering where it all went wrong, or someone who feels cold during a kiss that should be warm, I hope you'll ask yourself what I was too afraid to. What am I really starving for? And am I brave enough to say it out loud? Because once you name the hunger, you can begin to feed it, slowly, imperfectly, together. Or, you can let it eat you alive in silence. Either way, love asks something of you. Let it.